maybe there should be a fifth verse.
Maybe. This looks perfect. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I just wanted to remind you, when I am sharing my thoughts here, they're not just for you, but they are for me as well, and everything is said from the heart within the inspiration of the Spirit world. So, that being said, October is a very special month for two reasons. Does anybody know what those two reasons are?
Your birthday?
That was a good guess, but not. Well, one, it is a breast cancer awareness month, so there's a lot of outreach that happens, and I'm sure somewhere within our lives we have come into that embrace of journey within our families, friends, etc. that has a journey with that. So just be mindful, kind, compassionate with that. And then of course there is Halloween. So two reasons, not the birthday. So anyway. But actually, birthdays on every day. You know, every night you go to bed, you wake up in the morning. That's actually a true birthday. You know, what's on the calendar is something totally different. So, as I speak to you, what I'm wanting to say, we'll talk about practical spiritualism, or the aspects of spiritualism that makes it a sort of a practical moving piece of our life. In the true essence of spiritualism, it is about the continuity of life, that as we are living in today's world, as we are alive, breathing, flesh and bones and blood, there's a continuity of life into the spirit world, where when we cross over that thin veil, we continue to live and we continue to grow and move into the life that is different, more whimsical, more splendid as we can understand. So there is a journey between this world and that world, but what makes it more practical? Why spiritualism is a practical aspect of understanding. You know, it is defined into three segments: a religion, philosophy, and science. So it is accepted as a religion among the world religions. It has its placement on the roster. And that is there because it has a following. People believe in that aspect of understanding, and that makes it a religion. But there is a philosophy that goes with it that helps us understand how to live our life on a day-to-day basis. And that creates the understanding within it that death and dying, or the discovery of communication, is not the only thing. There's other aspects of it that allows us to strengthen who we are, our understanding, our belief, our own philosophy, and to grow within that. So that is always a continuing part. And then why science? Because science allows us to be measured. So there has been several skeptics and people that are wanting to test the mediums, physical mediums, more than anything else, within their ability to do the physical phenomena or prove the continuity of life, study the brain shifts, the brain chemistry, etc. So that allows us to understand the scientific measurement of what's going on in the brain, what is that shifts there, and it allows us to become a science because we become a case study. Not many religions allow that or have that aspect, so that definitely sets us a very unique tone to it. The first two aspects is present in most every religion, and then the third aspect of being a science is very unique because it can be measured. So as you and I, in this very moment, we are all breathing, we are all feeling, we are all sensing people. So you would understand that within the aspect of our work as a medium, as a sensitive, you have to understand it's just like any aspect of work. So many of us know how to cook. And next week I think there's going to be a wonderful competition here. So if you don't want to cook, be here. You'll get some wonderful ingredients to enjoy. But many of us know how to cook, right? But when we are cooking, how are we experiencing that part of the cooking? Even though when you learn, you know, you saw your mother or your father or your parents, somebody is demonstrating you and they're explaining or they're fussing with themselves how or what needs to be done. I have beautiful memories at my home. We were told not to step in there when special dishes were made because that will mess up the calculation or whatever. So it was a part of fun and play. But once again, going back into the aspect of cooking, as simple as scrambled eggs or frying an egg. You know, you have to be in an awareness of the heat, the pan, the oil, and just about everything, and including the smell, because if it's burning, then you will know it's burned at this point. Right? So you use multiple senses from that part. And I'm using a very simple example as I'm being inspired to share here, but that's how simple the aspect of the journey within spiritualism is, or the understanding of that is. We are living, sensing, feeling, thinking, listening organisms, and we do that every day. Sometimes we push our will more than the will of the Divine Spirit or our angels or guides, as how you would understand it to be. And I think that's where a lot of distortion comes into play, where we are trying to push what we want and not paying attention to what Spirit is wanting. So as I'm presenting what I'm feeling to say, why practical spiritualism? Why spiritualism makes life very practical? Because it allows us to be very much in tune with our own sensitivity in some ways. You know, if you're feeling an emotion, if you're feeling through your heart, you're feeling a grief, a pain, a loss, you're feeling through the sense of your heart. And if you're feeling a warning, if you're feeling an alert, if you're feeling something needs to be done, you're possibly working with your solar plexus or the seat of your soul, where everything is being taken in. And if you're using intelligence, if you're having visions in terms of clairvoyance or dreams or lucid dreaming, you're using different components of your own body structure or your chemistry makeup. So it becomes a very interesting part of the journey. And then we use the term intuitiveness or the gut feeling. Once again, we're talking about the solar plexus, where we take things into our gut to say, you know, where the guidance is, where the compass is. And I'm sure, like myself, many of you have ignored your gut feelings and you have gone through the motions of life, and then you have at some point realized, you know, it was a life lesson. It just turned into a life lesson. I like it or not, but now it is what it is. It's there. And that's a beautiful short version of a path of least resistance. Is it is what it is. You know? So to understand within that aspect of the practicality, the spirit world, mediums, angels, guides, our loved ones, are always there walking this path with us. Sometimes they have to push us, sometimes they have to pull us back, sometimes they leave us alone to figure it out. And for me, I know my beautiful journey comes in figuring it out, because within that aspect of figuring it out, I have to become even more sensitive, even more open and receptive to spirit communication. My listening ear on the inside becomes a little bit more keen, because I then have to push myself to be sitting still. How many of us here meditate on a regular basis or are aware of meditative processes? How many of us sit there for a long time? Well, that's a beautiful thing. There's a concept, because what I'm hearing is, even though you sit for 30 minutes, how many of us do find that stillness within ourselves? You know, there's one thing to going through the motion. Oh, I have to meditate for 30 minutes. I'm doing it. But what is within that moves you is the stillness where you're striving. And until that stillness is there, the inner listening and inner knowing doesn't really kick in. And that's a part of a learning curve. Consistency is very important. So it's very beautiful for me, as Janie, Reverend Janie was doing the introduction. All I was hearing is like, Joy, you'll be walking these words very soon. All I heard in my knowing was, so whatever we say, do, we get to walk our talk. How many of us would realize we have given suggestions and advisements to others, and sooner, in a few days, few weeks, we had to experience that on our own way. The power of spoken word is always mighty. The word happens inside, then it happens externally, and then we get to experience it. So that listening for me was just the knowing, whatever I'm presenting to you and me, somewhere I will have to walk this path. So that is another part of living practical philosophy and understanding of spiritualism, and my walk within that is, I'm prepared. Doesn't matter what it means, whatever it takes form of, I'm ready to embrace that. Now, the part of that intuitiveness is, how do we circumvent any circumstances that is ahead of us? Right? You know, we understand the anticipation is always the key. Sometimes it gets the best of us. But the part of us is to be in that sense of awareness. You know, wherever our path is, wherever our journey is, it's going to come about in a way that is best for us. We may understand it, we may comprehend it in our own way, but it is happening there for a reason. It's always in a divine order. So we in the basic definition of our religion of death and dying, you know, we always think separation or death is a physical death. You know, our pets are gone, our family members are gone. That's a physical death. But we are also on an ongoing basis throughout our lives are also experiencing different other types of death, which is severing of relationships, bonds and connections, moving from one job to another job, leaving those friendships behind, going on into the next stage of friendship. And that's just about another variation of the same loss that we experience, because it may not be a physical death, but it is definitely a change of some kind. And we don't understand how much we push ourselves in that aspect where we allow those connections to phase away and die and create something more. There's a beautiful way of understanding, you know, our lives are full at all times. If anybody thinks our lives are void or not full, maybe need to think back and understand that, because as Spirit would say, our lives are always full at all times. The constant pursuit that we have or we are in is to keep emptying so that we can have more new things to replace those things. So it's a perpetual motion, and we're going through this beautiful fall time in this year. That could be a wonderful analogy to what I'm being shared here through the guidance of the Spirit is leaves are falling. The trees are going to expand when it's time. They will shed off the bark. They will replace things within their own structures. Our body, we lose cells over the period of 24 hours. We change everything. Everything is in a constant. Movement is there. In the same way, you know, we have to understand the parts and pieces of our life that we are holding on to maybe no longer define us. Maybe no longer those relationship, friendships make any sense to us anymore. And that's where the growth is within that, you know. I'm sure we have friends and family and relatives that has hurt us, and unbeknownst to our wisdom that we can't ever do anything wrong, we have affected somebody else in the course of our lives. You know, within our sternness, within our belief, within our own self, we have affected somebody along the way. To understand, you know, those shifts and changes are always there. But the journey of awareness within your understanding and within this, my own journey of spiritualism allows me to be practical about it. Yes, something will bother me. Yes, I have said something that I believed in may not be sitting well with somebody else, even today, and then you would be resonating it for a small amount of time. But this is all facilitating growth. It's always stirring up growth. And the growth comes from putting you through that difficult place of, I don't know what's going on. A lot of time we do get, as professionals, it says, what is my purpose? What should I be doing? And the part of me that has learned over time is, do I really need to know what I need to be doing? How about just being where I am at the moment and learning what I need to do from that? So the expansion also says, you know, when we grow within our awareness, it goes in many different ways. It's not linear, it's not circumferential, it just happens. It's just expansion. You know, a part that we are wanting to grow may be stagnant for a while, but the other aspects of our learning is becoming more acute. Enjoy that part of it that's growing. Keep an eye on what needs to be growing, and things will find a proportional way of moving forward. So those that work as a professional medium, working with Spirit on a regular basis, or practicing, if you're not practicing medium, would understand there's much more information, knowledge, wisdom in the spirit world than we as humans will ever get to experience here in the living life. Our scope of awareness is somewhat myopic in some ways. But within the power as a sensitive, it allows us to experience that in the slightly altered state of awareness when we do practice ourselves within our minds, shifting our brain chemistry, shifting the aspects of our understanding to experience what it would be like to be in that realm of divine wisdom and divine presence where we go and understand there is beauty. There's definitely beauty. There's definitely an awareness of souls that are continuing their journey of life. Thus our belief in saying, you know, there's continuity of life. Life never stops. And there's that growth part is there. just beautiful experiences through doing readings and sittings creates an awareness within myself, like, this is so fascinating, and what a blessing to be in that journey, to understand, life is growing. I will be in those spirit spaces myself sooner or later, and I will have to go through all this myself. And that's a beautiful aha within itself. So it's not about being mechanical, that it's a part of work or it's a part of profession. It's about living that experience with each and every individual that we work with. Plus, living in awareness at all times. Whenever it's our time, it's our time. But that doesn't mean that we be foolish or not sensible about how do we create an awareness, because awareness is a part of the key of our existence in this lifetime. So be aware who you are, where you are, and the growth that comes with it. So some of us are givers, and some of us are takers, and some of us are a little bit of both. And that would be a wonderful thing for us to reflect as we move on today or the next week, to understand, where do I fall in? Where am I? Do I enjoy the aspects of giving and doing things for others? And I have programmed or trained myself to not be a great receiver. Because within the art of life, there is an art of giving and receiving. You cannot be a wonderful giver if you are not a wonderful receiver. So you have to understand that channel is a two-way channel. Because if you're a giver and you keep giving, at some point you will sit back and see the cracks of your life and say, what about this? Then everything that you've given becomes sort of a moot point, It becomes counterproductive. So receiving is significant. And for some, receiving has the receiving of a gift. Somebody likes to receive words. Somebody likes to have a gesture. I'll clean up for you. I'll pick up your grocery. There are a lot of things that we do in a regular basis of giving and receiving. Some people are good listeners. Some people are good talkers. The people that like to talk or they like to express, they like somebody to listen, because talking to a stone wall is a great thing, but there is a great value in exchanging that part of giving and receiving, And within our journey of sensitivity, we get to learn at what point whoever's sitting in front of us is the one that is needing to talk. And then we get to participate in a living life with them. I'm sure some of us have exposure in being with those that were sick, and they were going to be in the journey of their life towards the end part of it. And we had to sit with them, and sometimes we had to listen. Sometimes we had to just be quiet and feel what it feels like to be in that room, in that space with them. And to understand that is also giving and receiving. It's not always the spoken words, it's not always the gesture. Sometimes holding somebody in your space or somebody holding you in their space is another way of giving and receiving, and we don't understand. Sometimes we try to make things tangible to justify or understand what's happening. So at this moment, my wonderful receiving is through your listening to what the words are through the spirit realms, and my part is to be a conduit to pass that on. That is also a way of giving and receiving is there. And some of us are classically trained, and we are mostly are, because we see how life has been through our scope of our parents, our friends growing up, or their families, if we are influenced by that. So we have to understand what is innately ours. So, that's the self-inquiry. What is our true nature? Where are we at all times? How much allegiance we give to our own true personality, or how much allegiance we are giving to something that is not us. And within the awareness, those changes, if applied in this lifetime, makes life so much easier when we have the opportunity to cross into the other life. So why not do the work here instead of waiting to do the work later? Because let me tell you, there's so much more into the spirit realm than you could ever imagine and understand. So much exploration, so many different places to be and enjoy and just be in that journey. So why not put in some work today so that we don't have to worry about doing a whole lot of work upon crossing over. because take it from me, there is going to be a lot of work in the afterlife. So put your hard work now and little work afterwards. So just continue from that part, you know. You understand that practical aspect of what we are about. Now the one thing beautiful, as you would understand, there is no retribution on the spirit life. There is no judgment. As one thing is immediately what I felt through my years of service is the aspect of judgment is taken away from us right away. We know what we did was right or wrong, but we cannot judge from the sense of judgment. So if I see somebody or somebody sees me, we would know what their journey of life is, but we cannot discern or say, you know, you were a bad person or you were a good person. But, so that aspect of judgment, what I'm feeling over time with my services, that is taken away. Still, we will be much better off if we understand this journey of this life has the ability to have less work in the afterlife is there. Now our family members are always with us working through our day-to-day activities. Even today, you would imagine, you know, there's you and then there's so much more of you here from that awareness. So every space is filled at all times. So we are never alone. And that was a beautiful part of my story that I usually share. We're never alone, and that's just the promise of the Spirit. No matter where we are, no matter how alone or broken we feel, we are never alone. We are never alone. So we are absolutely walking with the guidance of loved one. Now the part is here. So if somebody in your family that has passed on was good at woodworking and not so good at money management, you would not listen to their advice about money management, right? But if they tell you how to fix the broken leg on a chair, that might make sense, right? As simple as that. Somebody was good at baking, they were not good at cooking, though why would you listen about how to make a soup instead of how to make a pie? What I'm saying to you is, as our loved ones bring the guidance to us, the aspect of measurement is there for us, the living people, to understand. You know, if that person was not good at money management, all of a sudden he's talking about wealth management that somewhere doesn't sit well. So question that part of it. And I think that stimulates our growth and understanding of how we optimize working with our spirit loved ones and their guidance. So you have to understand, you know, understand the concept. What we are here is the continuity of life. We do have wisdom, we do have awareness, we do have intelligence, but it is not that instant that we are all-knowing and we have all the decisions and choices in front of us. They will guide us. They will find us people that can help us where we are in our journey of life, subsequently giving us help. But if they tell us to do this, A, B, C, and D, maybe not so much have to think about it. Because we are intelligent, they're even more intelligent in some way. So they find us help. You know, like in Reverend Jean's example, there was an aspect of connecting links together. We're always linking people where we are. So finding that pieces, that pivotal points that shift our reality in our own way is where I feel the growth within us is, right? How many of us here were grown to solve every problem that was given to you? Right? Most of us are, right? We like to do everything, but have you been able to solve every problem that you had? No. Have you given up? I would not like you to give up, but you have to understand what is my strength and what is my weakness, what am I capable. At what point I need to say I need help. That is another way of saying, you know, the practical approach within our religion is to say, be aware who you are, what your strength and weakness is. There's nothing wrong to say, you know, I'm struggling with this understanding. Is there somebody who can help me? And then within the divinity or the divine guidance, then you will find people that can help you. So understand, living practically is very important because we are living. We need the support, the love, the care, the money, and the finances to make this life work. But also at the same time, we're divinely guided through that aspect that the counsel is there, the nudges are there, and then it is about our awareness that if we are living with conscious awareness, we're moving in the flow of life. With that being said, as I close this conversation, there's a beautiful quote that I would like to talk about just very quickly is from Dr. Stephen Covey, and he has written this in his book of The Highly Effective People. He talks about synergy, and that synergy means is the number of people that are sitting here, we're all good at something. And how do we pool our goodness to create a greater goodness? So he talks about working with our gifts, our strong point, bringing them together, and then experiencing a growth and expansion and being successful. So this life as given by God to us is about experiencing that. And we need to understand how to bring our strengths together as a family, as individuals, as communities, as belief groups, etc., and how to optimize and be successful. So thank you for being here with me.